Film Fury, my pal Johnny Millennium couldn't join me on this one. He is still feeling very under the weather, so wish him well, okay? I'm gonna review Only the Brave, but first I have to thank our friends at the VFS School of Film. Now, Only the Brave is a brand new firefighter movie that is directed by Joseph Kosinski, and he also brought us Tron Legacy, and he also brought us Oblivion, so I have to admit, I was a little bit concerned that this movie was going to be devoid of emotion, because as efficient and clean and cool as Oblivion and Tron Legacy were, they almost looked like pieces of the same puzzle that could snap together perfectly. There were so many clean edges and clean lines and symmetry throughout both of those films, but they didn't really have a huge human element in either one of those films. So I was a little bit concerned that Only the Brave, which deals with a very human and unfortunately very topical issue of the damage and destruction caused by forest fires, that this was not going to have the heart and soul that a movie about these firefighters really deserved. And I'm happy to report that I was wrong. This actually has a tremendous amount of heart and a tremendous amount of soul, and I think Kosinski has really delivered something that's going to pack a powerful punch, particularly in this climate, no pun intended, because we are seeing forest fires just ravage communities all over the world right now. And this particular story deals with the Granite Mountain Hotshots, which are constantly referenced as SEAL Team 6 of firefighters. These are firefighters that jump into a wildfire in different forest fires all over the country, but this story primarily takes place in kind of the southwestern area, the Arizona area. And what these guys do is they rush into forest fires that are completely out of control, and they're kind of the first ones to respond. They race in, and instead of going in with all kinds of hoses and lots of equipment to sort of battle the fires, they just go in with a shovel and an axe and some chainsaws and maybe some flamethrowers or some makeshift flamethrowers to burn away areas of the forest that are going to be overcome by the fire before it gets there. And so in effect, they're working feverishly to try to save huge chunks of beautiful land, but also the towns and communities and little cities that sort of exist on the periphery of all of these great forests out there. Incredibly dangerous job, and an outstanding sort of premise to create a really cool film that's going to elicit all kinds of great emotions in us. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of cheesy firefighting movies in the past, and with some pretty cool effects and some interesting ways to kind of approach the the idea of the ferocity of fire, but somehow they kind of all devolve into very similar tones. And I thought Backdraft was okay, but it has a kind of a cheesy undertone. I think Rescue Me, actually, as a television series, did a much better job at sort of focusing on the lives and the dangers and the realities of being a firefighter. And this movie, I think, has some kind of uncharted territory, because we don't really get to see these kinds of daredevils, operating like this. And these are elite people that, are constantly sort of physically taxing themselves, and they're working out all the time, and they're trying to kind of maintain a sort of presence and a state of mind to be able to battle these fires and not get killed, because they're basically right on the edge of these massive firestorms, and it's incredible to see. And Kosinski does capture, those action sequences quite well. You do get a sense that the actors are in danger, and the firefighters in reality are in danger, and it doesn't go over the top, which I think is one of the pitfalls that a lot of firefighting films kind of face. Is sorry for the alliteration, is that they go a little too far into it, and they make it too dramatic, and the fire just consumes entire buildings or entire forests super quickly, and it just gets too crazy. In this, we do get a sense of that, but it's more of this encroaching danger, and we get a really good snapshot of the intelligence it takes, and the presence of mind, and the calm, and the awareness that it takes to be able to battle these blazes effectively. And I have to give a tremendous amount of credit to the cast in this film. Josh Brolin is kind of this Papa Bear who sort of oversees the Granite Mountain Hotshots. Hotshots. He's been fighting for a big chunk of his career to be given the opportunity to be called a hotshot. He's been the head of a second-tier firefighter group collective for a long time, and he is granted this opportunity to become this elite team, and his team is incredible. Taylor Kitsch is one of the standouts in this thing. He's kind of the comic relief, but he hits his notes really well. You do have empathy for him, you do care for this guy, and it's a solid performance by him. The standout for me, though, is Miles Teller, and I know when I say that name, there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions about this guy. I don't fall in for any of that TMZ bullshit, so I don't really know what the backstory is on this guy. I haven't read tons of interviews or watched lots of, footage of him as a person, but I can tell you he's one of my favorite actors that's working right now. He always seems to manage to bring something out in me, and when I watched him as this deadbeat, sort of drugged out dad that's trying to do the right thing, he's has a baby with a woman that he's basically had some flings with, but he kind of says, I don't want to be what my father was, and he kind of steps to, and he pulls himself out of the muck, and he starts training to become one of these hotshots. And there's, and I kind of teared up when he was dropping bags of diapers and groceries and stuff at the mom's house and his little kid's house. Didn't want to sort of encroach on their life and push himself into their world, just wants to do the right thing, And there's a great, powerful message in here about addiction and, second chances after some bad choices and stuff. And I really applaud the filmmakers to interweave that story with such a light touch into this movie. So many movies like this have gone for the sort of Disney-style, over-the-top bravado type action, and there's a humility and a humanity and an empathy that is really special and really nice about this. And that's also conveyed by Jennifer Connelly's performance in this, who plays Josh Brolin's wife. And usually I say that statement and I'm usually disappointed by the lack of opportunity that our female lead has gotten in a film like this. But thankfully this time, she's actually gotten some fantastic sequences, and she really stands on her own 2 feet, and she has some really powerful, moments of kind of pushing back and saying that, you don't get to be away from my life and also be concerned for how I live my life. And I just thought that was some fantastic writing, some truthful writing, and also, we get to kind of see into some of the darkness that she has faced and that Josh Brolin's character has faced. And then, of course, we get a climactic sequence that really hits some powerful punches, and it's only because the filmmakers, and kudos to the writers and kudos to Joseph Kosinski, has given us enough time to get to know this huge cast of characters. Jeff Bridges is in this thing as well. He's got some pretty good stuff in here, including a sequence where he's singing. I think he loves to play guitar and sing, and he gets to do that a little bit. Andie Macdowell kind of has a walkthrough role. She doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, but there are so many characters. Some you'll recognize, some actors you'll recognize. I think new performers have been given some pretty cool opportunities in here. I got the sense that there were some real firefighters interwoven into the background as well, which was a nice touch. Listen, I wasn't expecting to dig this. I thought it was going to be a bit cheesy. I thought it was going to be a Kosinski-styled, slick-looking, beautifully shot, symmetrical but kind of empty kind of film. But it certainly wasn't that. And, I say that, but I do think Kosinski is a terrific filmmaker. He's got a style, and I'm glad to see him stretch like this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got next. But Only the Brave, I really dug it. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now, if you think you've got a great firefighting script or a movie to make in you, you might want to do this. You might want to check out VFS.edu for more info about the Vancouver Film School's 1-year program to learn how to be a filmmaker.